Hi, everybody. This list is going to be the 20 teachers in the Kelly High School in the town of Pisgah. I hope you enjoy it. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I started doing something weird. Here we go.
1. Mrs. Smith, English Literature 2. Mr. Johnston, History 3. Miss Brown, Mathematics 4. Mr. Davis, Science 5. Mrs. White, Art 6. Mr. Lee, Physical Education 7. Miss Garcia, Spanish 8. Mrs. Patel, Chemistry 9. Mr. Thompson, Music 10. Miss Wynne, Biology 11. Mr. Wilson, Economics 12. Mrs. Robinson, French 13. Mr. Martinez, Computer Science 14. Miss Taylor, Psychology 15. Mrs. Kim, Physics 16. Mr. Adams, Geography 17. Miss Hernandez, Drama 18. Mrs. Jones, Health Education 19. Mr. Chang minus Mandarin 20. Miss Patel, Environmental Science. The school was abuzz with the sound of students rushing to their classes, books clutched tightly in their hands. The hallways were filled with chatter and laughter as they made their way to their respective classrooms. In room 101, Mrs. Smith stood at the front of the class, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm as she discussed the works of Shakespeare with her students. The room was filled with the sound of pages turning and pens scratching as the students eagerly took notes. Down the hall, Mr. Johnson captivated his history class with tales of ancient civilizations and epic battles. His passion for the subject was evident in the way he animatedly gestured as he spoke, drawing his students into the past. In the mathematics classroom, Miss Brown patiently explained complex equations to her students, her calm demeanor helping them overcome their fear of numbers. The whiteboard was filled with colorful diagrams and formulas, a testament to her dedication to her students' success. In the science lab, Mr. Davis conducted experiments that left his students in awe of the wonders of the natural world. The room was filled with the sound of bubbling beakers and the occasional gasp of excitement as a reaction occurred. In the art room, Mrs. White encouraged her students to unleash their creativity on canvas, guiding them as they explored different mediums and techniques. The walls were adorned with colorful masterpieces, each one a reflection of the students' unique talents. In the gymnasium, Mr. Lee led his students in a rigorous workout, pushing them to reach their physical limits. The sound of sneakers squeaking on the floor and the thud of basketballs echoed through the room as the students worked up a sweat. In the language classroom, Miss Garcia taught her students the beauty of Spanish, immersing them in the rich culture and history of the language. The room was filled with the sound of laughter as the students practiced their pronunciation and vocabulary. In the chemistry lab, Mrs. Patel conducted experiments that left her students in awe of the power of chemical reactions. The room was filled with the smell of chemicals and the sound of bubbling liquids as the students eagerly observed the results. In the music room, Mr. Thompson led his students in a symphony of sound, teaching them to appreciate the beauty of melody and rhythm. The room was filled with the sound of instruments playing in harmony, creating a magical atmosphere. In the biology classroom, Miss Wynne guided her students through the wonders of the natural world, from the smallest microorganisms to the largest mammals. The room was filled with the sound of students eagerly flipping through their textbooks, eager to learn more. In the economics classroom, Mr. Wilson discussed the intricacies of supply and demand, teaching his students the principles of finance and business. The room was filled with the sound of pen scratching on paper as the students diligently took notes. In the French classroom, Mrs. Robinson introduced her students to the beauty of the language, immersing them in the rich culture and history of France. The room was filled with the sound of students practicing their pronunciation and conjugation, eager to master the language. In the computer science lab, Mr. Martinez taught his students the fundamentals of coding and programming, opening their eyes to the endless possibilities of technology. The room was filled with the sound of keyboards clicking and the occasional cheer as a program successfully ran. In the psychology classroom, Ms. Taylor delved into the complexities of the human mind, teaching her students to understand the intricacies of behavior and thought. The room was filled with the sound of lively debates and discussions as the students explored different theories and concepts. In the physics classroom, Mrs. Kim conducted experiments that left her students in awe of the laws of the universe. The room was filled with the sound of objects colliding and the occasional gasp of amazement as a scientific principle was demonstrated. In the geography classroom, Mr. Adams led his students on a journey around the world, teaching them about different cultures and landscapes. The room was filled with the sound of students eagerly flipping through their textbooks, eager to learn more about the world around them. In the drama room, Ms. Hernandez encouraged her students to express themselves through acting, guiding them as they explored different characters and emotions. The room was filled with the sound of laughter and applause as the students performed their scenes with passion. In the health education classroom, Mrs. Jones taught her students the importance of taking care of their bodies and minds, instilling in them the knowledge they needed to lead healthy lives. The room was filled with the sound of students eagerly taking notes and asking questions about nutrition and exercise. In the Mandarin classroom, Mr. Chang introduced his students to the beauty of the language, immersing them in the rich culture and history of China. The room was filled with the sound of students practicing their tones and characters, eager to master the language. In the environmental science classroom, Ms. Patel taught her students the importance of protecting the planet and preserving its natural resources. The room was filled with the sound of lively discussions and debates as the students explored different environmental issues and solutions. As the final bell rang, signaling the end of the school day, the students filed out of their classrooms, their minds buzzing with the knowledge they had gained from their dedicated teachers. Each one of them had been inspired and challenged in their own unique way, thanks to the passion and dedication of their educators. And as they headed home, they knew that they were one step closer to achieving their dreams, all thanks to the guidance of their teachers.